I can already hear people asking, your dumbass is going to take on Legal Eagle? Yes, but not in the way that you're thinking. You see, this is a bit of a revenge video as well, as I was planning on doing one focused on fair use, but then he got his out first, and well, I begrudgingly watched his, which, by the way, is fantastic and honestly is on par with the rest of his work. Very thorough and very entertaining. But alas, as I reached the end of his video, I realized he didn't touch on one of the most important points about fair use, the one that can cost you and your hubris a lot of money. So then, let's get started. Now, in case you didn't already know, I edit for a few podcasts, and some of them are rather sizable and have quite a bit of stock worth protecting. And recently, one of those hosts was getting a bit squirmy about fair use, as he uses a lot of new-style clips in his podcast. So, he brings in a lawyer for a bit of a pep talk and to go over things. And of course, the lawyer basically told us exactly what Legal Eagle said, except there was a price tag on it. And in case you didn't already know, and you can't be arsed to watch Legal Eagle's video, there are a few things to know about fair use. But for the sake of most podcasters and YouTubers, the word transformative comes up a lot. Basically, if you're using someone else's IP or intellectual property, you need to find a way to make it your own. But here's where it gets a little sticky. While chatting with the lawyer, he said something that completely crushed the conversation. During the back and forth, the lawyer actually said this. Well, I mean, it's only a matter of time before you get sued. And the whole room hushed. The podcaster gave this Jason Bateman style, "What did you just say, look?" And the realization set in. And this is that little bit of info that gets left out when people talk about fair use, including Legal Eagle. You see, fair use is not a get-out-of-jail-free card that lets you cherry-pick other people's work. It isn't something you yell in a crowded room that absolves you of all responsibility.
I declare bankruptcy!
And honestly, I think it's the one factor that will bankrupt you and your hubris if you're not careful. In the end, you do not get to choose what is fair use. You see, those fair use guidelines are there to support your defense in court. And I need you to hear every word I'm about to say. Anytime you use someone else's work, you are at the risk of getting sued. Now, that risk is dependent on many things, but do not kid yourself. That risk is always there. Even stuff that is marked as copyright safe can even give you a legal nightmare once in a while. And if you're unlucky enough to be taken to court for use of another person's IP, those fair use rules will be weighed against you, and it will be a judge deciding on whether or not it was fair use. Now, if you're someone like XQC, you can handle the odd lawsuit and probably even afford losing the odd lawsuit. But let's be perfectly honest. He isn't the only one doing this kind of stuff. Even I've done it in this video.
Bankruptcy!
So then, this all sounds rather bleak. What's a guy to do? Well, there is a bit of good news. Don't you worry. Realistically, most small cookies just appear as crumbs to the giants. Meaning, if you're taking certain liberties, you probably won't get noticed if you're small enough, especially if you're staying close to the line without going over. Though the odd cease and desist letter might get your heart pumping. But if you're in that danger zone, kind of like my channel, big enough to have some attention, but not big enough to pay for a lawsuit, well, perhaps a bit more caution can be used. And I mean this. Get an entertainment lawyer that is willing to do some quick Q&As for you over the phone. Yes, you will be paying for these most likely, though most are happy with small fees if you're willing to include them on any upcoming litigation. And those fees generally aren't all that cumbersome. But with all that said, you have to remember, lawsuits cost a lot of money for both sides, which is kind of good news for you as well. It means that companies generally save their lawyering money for the more egregious cases and leave the strongly worded letters for the fringe cases. Of course, there are some bad actors out there that are just digging for easy money, and some big companies will sue you for anything remotely appearing to be IP theft. Watch out for those. So while this isn't me saying that you're going to be fine, it is me just saying to be smart. Cross your T's, dot your I's, ask for permission maybe, and get a lawyer on your side that is willing to give feedback if you're big enough. Cheers, and thanks for watching.